the thing in my life that I have the least freedom around, which for most of my life and for many people is money, well, then I need to create freedom around money. And the place that I started was around my mindset. And then the way I think shifted the way I acted. And then my actions shifted my habits, and my habits shifted my life. And so that's how this works. Welcome to the Artful Dollar Podcast, where we talk about money, mindset, spirituality, art, creativity. I am Ryan Roy, tattoo artist, financial advisor, financial coach, spiritual seeker, and I am going to talk about money mindset. And today I'm going to be interviewing Andrew Huberman, except that I don't actually have Andrew Huberman here. If you don't know who he is, I'll tell you about him in a second, but I have the ChatGPT version of Andrew Huberman that has been designed to answer questions exactly like Andrew would. And I asked it 3 questions about money mindset that I want to talk about today. I'm going to look at the answers, and then the goal is to help you work on your money mindset and improve your life, improve your finances, make more, save more. This is the most effective way to change your life in regards to money, which has such an impact on all other areas of life. We're going to talk about that. But before I get into any of that, I want you to know, first of all, who is Andrew Huberman? If you're not familiar with him, if you look him up, he is a PhD neuroscientist who is, he's a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford University. So he's got his own podcast, the Huberman Lab podcast. He's a pretty interesting guy. I love his background. He comes from like a punk rock skateboard background and then found his way into neuroscience. And he's pretty extreme in some regards in terms of like biohacking and neuroscience and mindset. But I like taking from people that are a little bit extreme. I'm a little bit extreme. And I like to take those pieces of what that person is saying or offering and use them. Anything I don't care for or don't need or use, I leave that on the shelf. And so that is who I really wanted to talk to. I couldn't get him on the podcast. And so I have the ChatGPT version. And the questions that I'm going to ask him are 3 questions. The first question is, can you describe what mindset is in simple terms? So I find that mindset is just like a very vague, amorphous thing. Everyone's going to give you a different description of it, and it might mean something different to you than it does to me, and that's totally fine. But I wanted to get him to describe it in simple terms, so we have a very good description of what mindset is. The second question is, if I wanted to improve my mindset around money, how would I go about doing that? And the third question is, what is the long-term impact of working on and improving your money mindset? Please use any studies to inform your answer. And so those are the 3 questions, although I want to start with the last question because I want you to kind of get a sense of what are we in this for? Why are you going to listen to this podcast, watch this podcast? What's in it for you? Why would you listen and then do any of the things that I'm going to offer you? And so I am a mindset coach. In addition to being a financial coach and advisor and artist and all these things, the mindset work that I do with my clients has been said to be some of the most powerful part of the experience, the most life-changing. And it has been my experience as well, like shifting my mindset around money, which is something I started to do when I was around 26. I just turned 38 the other day. Happy birthday to me. It's an ongoing journey, and it has been the most rewarding journey that I've been on in my life. It has made the biggest impact in the quality of life, the freedom that I have, because at the end of the day, I'm after freedom. That's what I want. I want liberation, or as they say in Sanskrit, moksha, just unlimited freedom. And if that's what I'm after, then the thing in my life that I have the least freedom around, which for most of my life and for many people is money, well, then I need to create freedom around money. And the place that I started was around my mindset. And then the way I think shifted the way I acted. And then my actions shifted my habits, and my habits shifted my life. And so that's how this works. And so let's start with that last question. What is the long-term impact of working on and improving your mindset? Please use any studies to inform your answer. And so let's see what Huberman GPT has to say about that. The first benefit of doing the work that we're going to talk about doing today is better financial decisions and wealth accumulation. And so there was a study from the American Psychology Association that shows that individuals who believe they can improve their financial skills, growth mindset, which we're going to talk about, fixed and growth mindset, two kind of different versions of mindset that are there, and there's probably a spectrum between the two. But people and individuals who believe that they can improve their financial skills through growth mindset are more likely to take action and make better financial decisions compared to those with a fixed mindset, who often avoid dealing with financial challenges. Over time, these small actions compound, leading to more substantial wealth accumulation. Simply by working on your mindset and building that growth mindset around money, and we're going to talk about what that is and exactly how you can do that, it's just going to help you make better financial decisions, which over time will compound and improve your finances, help you make more and save more money so that you can have more freedom and power and expression around money and in your life overall. Another study said that working on your money mindset reduces financial stress. So in 2015, a study, the Journal of Financial Therapy, found that individuals with a positive money mindset experienced lower levels of financial anxiety and were more proactive in managing their money. This stress reduction has long-term effects on both mental and physical health, as chronic financial stress is linked to poor health outcomes, including high rates of cardiovascular disease and other physical ailments. So reducing financial stress doesn't, in my experience, come from having or making more money. And you might be able to see that in your own life. I've talked to many people that make more money than they've ever made in their lives, and yet they actually have more financial stress than they've ever had in their lives. And so if you're experiencing financial stress, more money isn't necessarily going to solve that. Looking at your relationship, your perspective, your mindset around money, in my opinion, and in Huberman GPT's opinion, is one of the best ways to reduce financial stress. So if that's your goal, we're going to be talking about how you can do that today and actually feel less stress around money today, after and during listening to this episode, and after this episode. I want you to be less stressed about money. That's the goal. Another study said it improved relationships. So, research published in the Journal of Marriage and Family found that couples who approached finances with a growth mindset, setting money management as a skill that they can improve, are better at navigating financial challenges and experience fewer conflicts related to money. Money is one of the top, if not the most argued about or cause of arguments in relationships. And we can kind of see like that makes sense, right? That we're, bonding our life with this other person. And if my relationship with money looks like this and yours looks very different, there's going to be a lot of conflict there. It impacts our goals. It impacts our ability. I talked to a couple just the other day where one of them is a lot more financially responsible than the other one. And they want to go on trips, but they want to be able to contribute to those vacations and traveling together, and one of them is really working on paying off personal debt while the other one doesn't have any debt, and it's become a big conflict for them when they want to go on a vacation or travel. And so by improving your mindset around money, improving your habits and your decision making around money, it really does free you up to build better connections with people in your life. And so that's another benefit, right? So we have making more, having more money, accumulating money, reducing your stress, better relationships. Another study said that it increased financial literacy and confidence. So according to reports of the National Endowment for Financial Education, individuals with a growth mindset about finances are more likely to engage in learning opportunities, such as financial literacy programs, and apply their newfound knowledge to their own financial situation. This leads to better long-term outcomes such as higher savings rates and better debt management. I think that anything you pour your attention and intention into is going to grow. It's going to improve. When I was pouring all of my attention and intention into my artwork, into my passion as a tattoo artist, I naturally got better. And the more seriously and more dedicated and more excited I got about tattooing, the more I grew as a tattoo artist. And so by applying a growth mindset to money, working on your mindset, you're naturally going to become interested in these things, right? If you're afraid of money, or you feel overwhelmed by money, or you just believe that I'm bad with money, what are the chances of you actually taking action, watching a YouTube video, reading a book, taking a course or financial literacy program to better your financial situation if your relationship to that thing is stress, overwhelm, I'm bad with it, it's scary, fear. And so you're naturally going to increase your confidence by working on your mindset, right? We keep telling ourselves, oh, I just got to be better with money. But really starting with looking at the relationship and the actions that we're going to go over today is probably the best place to start if your goal is to improve your financial situation. And the last one here is just general greater life satisfaction and well-being. So a study from the Social Indicators Research Journal found a strong correlation between financial security, mindset, and life satisfaction. Individuals who felt in control of their finances due to a growth mindset were more likely to report higher levels of happiness and fulfillment in their daily lives. So, right, at the end of the day, like, I don't actually care about money. I care about life satisfaction and fulfillment and well-being. And so if that's my goal, then working on my relationship with money is going to help me achieve that goal. So these are 5 really big impacts that are a side effect of the topic that I'm talking about today, and the exact tangible actions, exercises that I'm going to be giving you based on Andrew Huberman's advice around mindset. Sound cool? If you're into that, then stay tuned. This is going to be a great episode. All right. So the first question, the original question I asked, which is, can you describe what mindset is in simple terms? So Andrew Huberman, GPT, mindset is essentially the way that you think about things. It's like a filter through which you see and interpret the world, yourself, and your abilities. There are generally 2 types of mindset. There's fixed mindset and growth mindset. A fixed mindset means that you believe your abilities, your intelligence, and your talents are set in stone. You think, I'm either good at this or I'm not. And if you face challenges, you might give up because you think that you can't change. If that sounds relatable to you in regards to money, right? I'm either good at this or I'm not. And when you face challenges, you might give up on them because you think you can't change. Then you might have a fixed mindset around money. And if you do, great. Now we know that. And once we know that, we can do something about that. But the first step is identifying, well, where is my mindset? And now you might be on some spectrum here, right? There might be some growth happening, but there's still, if you're really honest with yourself, a good amount of fixed mindset around money. And I think that's probably the number one thing causing a lot of financial stress out there. And yes, you can point outward towards all kinds of societal, policy, political, government impacts. But I think at the end of the day, blaming those things, we have only so much power to change those things. And I do want to see those change. I do want to see tax reform and policy change that benefits the lower 99%. But at the same time, something that you have control over, you have the power to change, is your mindset. And so just acknowledging, like, yeah, I'm working on a growth mindset, but there's still a lot of beliefs that I feel like I can't do that, then that's what we want to work on today. A growth mindset, on the other hand, is when you believe that with effort, learning, and practice, you can improve. You see challenges as opportunities to grow and understand your abilities can develop over time. And so there's just 2 different ways of viewing anything, right? Viewing art, tattooing, money, relationships, physical health and well-being. When we approach it from a fixed mindset, there's only so many actions we can take. We're very limited in what is possible from a fixed mindset, whereas from a growth mindset, there really is no limit. There is no ceiling to how much growth we can have in that area of our lives. And so I really don't see why someone would want to have a fixed mindset. And if you do want to have a fixed mindset around money, I guess maybe that's just a side effect of having a fixed mindset, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, that's not you. So how do we actually change our mindset and cultivate a growth mindset? And so when I asked this question, I was pleased to find out that his approach is nearly identical to how I've been teaching and working on my own mindset and teaching people in the Artful Dollar program how to work on their mindset. And so there is a lot of correlation here. And so you're kind of going to get a sneak peek under the hood today of like what that actually looks like. Why do people say that that was the most impactful part of going through this program? So improving your mindset around money is a lot like training your brain to see financial situations differently. Just like strengthening any other skill, here's a step-by-step breakdown of how you can shift toward a growth mindset when it comes to money, right? That's what Huberman GPT is telling us. So the first step, and I'll tell you right now, there are 7 steps in this whole process, okay? And the first step is to identify your current beliefs around money. And so I'll tell you what he says, and then I'll extrapolate a little bit from my own experience. Start by reflecting on how you currently think and feel about money. Do you believe that money is hard to get? Do you think rich people are lucky or greedy? These beliefs shape your mindset. Write them down so you can become aware of any limiting thoughts. And so that's exactly what I have people do, is write it down. The belief might exist in your head, but we need to get it out so that we can observe it. And so that's the very first thing that I have people do, is write out what is your belief system. And now I know a lot of people that they believe that money is not hard to get. They believe they can create tons of money. They've been able to do that a lot in the past. They feel a lot of freedom around that. And yet they don't believe that they can actually save and accumulate money. And so here's how I like to go about this, is like, think about what are those thoughts? They're right there at the surface. You don't actually have to think too hard. You don't have to look too hard. When you spend money, when you try to save money, or when you do save money, or when you invest money, right? Is there like, oh, I want to see a return, or I'm going to do this good thing for my future, and you get all excited about it, but then you get impatient and you're like, well, maybe I could get this thing now. Is there more of a prioritizing of instant gratification versus patience and long-term gratification? What are those feelings? Where do you feel them in your body? Because there's actually sort of 2 minds that we all have, right? We have the mind that's up top, our brain, our thought thinking mind, but then we also have our feeling mind. Your body actually has neurotransmitters throughout it. Even in your stomach and in your heart, there are neurotransmitters that we normally think about in our brain. And so you actually have thoughts in your body in the form of feelings that you feel. And this is something that is not talked about when you go to your traditional financial advisor or CPA. They're not going to talk about, well, how do you feel about your taxes? Or how do you feel about your savings and investments? And it's a big pink elephant in the room. And if they're talking to you about what you should do about money, and you're sitting there and you're feeling this kind of like dread or uncomfortable, awkward sensation in your body, it's going to be really hard for you to take the right actions around money if the way you feel and think about money isn't serving you. And so we want to first identify them. And now when we identify them, and we want to be really honest, don't beat yourself up, don't criticize, just like be really real. Like, if I'm completely honest, I hold this belief that if I build enough wealth for myself, people will judge me. People will think that I did something wrong in order to create that wealth. If I'm really honest with myself, I feel that fear and that belief. And it's something that I'm working on. And if I don't give that up, if I don't strengthen the muscle that supports a new belief system, and if I keep letting this belief system operate in the background, dictating my actions, dictating my habits, dictating my life, then it is highly unlikely that I will actually build wealth, and I want to be wealthy. I truly do want to be wealthy. I don't see why you wouldn't want to create wealth, especially if your goal is to have an impact on the people in your life and the people around you, and maybe even in your country or your world. If you want to have a big impact, money at the end of the day does equate to a certain level of power, a certain level of influence, a certain level of impact. And I don't know that I can make the type of impact I want to make if I am burdened, if I'm limited by financial circumstances. And so to me, wealth is freedom. Wealth is freedom to create the life that I want for myself, but it's also the freedom to act and give and make the impact that I want to make in the world. And so I have to relate to building wealth as that's what it is. I cannot allow this fear of other people's judgments or opinions about me. And because the truth is, people might think that. People might judge me, right? If I become a millionaire. Okay. I just have to be okay with that. I have to allow them to do that and recognize that their opinion of me is not my responsibility. I know myself. I am being true to what I know my purpose is in life. And I cannot allow the fear of what other people might think of me, because at the end of the day, if they're not supportive of the way I want to live my life, then they're just not on my team. And why do I care about someone's opinion of me when they're not even on my team? They don't support me, right? And often those judgments come from a place of fear and scarcity and a fixed mindset. So it's like I'm allowing other people's fixed mindset to impact how I live my life. And that's very limiting, right? So I like applying these things to like literally how I use them and share them with you. I want to be open, honest, and vulnerable with you. All right, so that's the first one. We want to write it down. So get out your journal, ask yourself, what are those beliefs? What do I believe money is hard. I believe there'll never be enough. I believe I don't deserve money, or whatever that is for you. You can write that down. So apparently 88% of listeners have not left a review or subscribed. And I'm going to get right back to the podcast in just a second. But if you have found this episode helpful and you think that other people would benefit from listening, then all I ask in return is please just leave a quick review and subscribe. It'll take just 1 minute, and it might help other tattooers and other artists find this podcast and help them out. So please, it would mean the world to me, and it might actually make a difference for someone else. Thanks. Second one, it says shift to an abundance mindset. Great, no problem. Shift to abundance mindset. Check, next. No, it's not that simple, and it does take practice. So what he's saying is, instead of seeing money as scarce or difficult to attain, start viewing it as a tool that you can grow and work for you. The abundance mindset is about believing there is enough resource and opportunities for everyone. You can start by reframing your thoughts from "I can't afford this" to "How can I afford this?" This simple change encourages problem solving and opens up possibilities. Okay, I like that. I'm not 100% satisfied with it. I hear a lot of people say that money is a tool. And I was actually, just before I started recording this podcast, someone I really look up to, a tool builder that I really admire that had a huge impact on my tattoo career, gave me a ring. If you're familiar with Dan Cuban, he makes incredible tattoo machines. He's a really inspiring person, and getting to know him and talk to him has been pretty exciting, honestly. And he's on his own spiritual path of growth, and we're, maybe possibly working on some cool stuff in the future. Anyway, I'm not going to divulge into that, but we were talking about tools. We're talking about tattoo machines and money. And when you have a tool, a machine that is perfectly tuned, and you are skillful with that tool, the tool disappears. All that's left is your authentic self-expression. And so when I'm tattooing and I'm using my tool and I become proficient with this tool, the tool completely, my hands kind of disappear. Suddenly, there are times where I feel like I'm watching my hands do the tattoo. I don't know if anyone's ever experienced that, but it's kind of this out-of-body experience where you're really in the flow. And it's like I'm discovering what the tattoo wants to look like. And I'm not even thinking about it. it is just this channeled flow of creativity. So while money, yeah, you could view it as a tool, but even further than that, I view money as a form of self-expression. I view any tool as a form of self-expression, right? I'm using the tattoo machine skillfully, proficiently to express myself. And I really like to look at money as a creative medium more than just a tool. It is a medium that I can use, that I can learn, that I can develop to share my authentic self-expression with the world. And again, if I'm after freedom, freedom is the ability to express yourself authentically and unlimitedly with the world around you, to not feel like you have to fit into someone else's idea of the way the world is or should be. And that's what I've come to learn is like shifting my mindset around money, getting to develop these skills around money. It becomes this game, it becomes this dance where money is sort of dancing to the song of my life. And that might feel very like woo woo or out there. And I even, at times I'm like, I hear these words come out of my mouth and I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? But that is my honest experience. That is my true, honest experience. And I'm not wealthy or a millionaire, or at least by some standards. By some other standards, I'm extraordinarily wealthy. But I'm a work in progress. I'm still growing my relationship with money. I got on a call with someone the other day, and I heard this rumor, I guess, that I'm a millionaire. And I was like, that's cool that people think that. I'm not yet. I will be, and I'm excited for that future. But I teach and I'm fascinated with this stuff, not because I've reached the end goal, but because I'm also on this path. And I want to share what I've learned and discovered for myself on my path with other people so that I can continue, because that's just a part of continuing my journey, is sharing what I've learned with other people. I think it's one of the best ways to grow in any area of life. So shifting to an abundance mindset, more than just looking at money as a tool, but looking at money as a form of self-expression, an unlimited resource that we can use to create, to sculpt, to paint the vision of the life that we really want to live. All right, now moving on to step 3, learn about financial literacy. So if we want to build a growth mindset around money, part of that is going to be learning how to use the tool, right? If we want to fully achieve that abundance mindset, we got to understand how to use the tool. So the more you understand money, how to budget, invest, save, the more confident you'll become in handling it. Read books, listen to podcasts, or take courses about personal finance. Knowledge empowers you to make smarter financial decisions and change your mindset from fear or avoidance to curiosity and control. So that's GPT Huberman's next step in building and cultivating a growth mindset around money, is to start to learn about your tool. Again, if we're avoiding this, if we're avoiding the topic of money, right? If we pour all of our energy into our creativity. I worked with an artist that, he told me his whole life, this is like one of the most talented tattooers I've ever gotten to work with, Michael J. Kelly. Look him up. He's phenomenal. He was like, I have poured all of my energy into my craft, my artwork, but I haven't really poured any of that energy into money, into learning about money. And I said, well, who are you being? I talk a lot about who are you being around money? And you can ask yourself this question. Who are you being about money? I asked him, he said, I feel like I'm being kind of childish and immature around money. I said, oh, it's fascinating, right? Okay. It's not good, bad, right, wrong. It's interesting. It's curious. Now, who are you being around tattooing? And he said, well, I'm being bold and professional. And I was like, interesting, right? Cool. And that way of being that you have around tattooing has naturally led to an extraordinary career, an extraordinary ability as a tattoo artist. And now what would happen if you took the way of being that you have around money and you sat down to do a tattoo like that? And he goes, well, that wouldn't work out that well, right? Yeah, because who you're being, your beliefs, there's this whole science, actually, it's called ontology. It's the science of being, right? We're human beings. We are an animal, we're a human, and we be some type of way. So starting to ask yourself, who are you being around money is a great way to build that curiosity and identify those current beliefs and start to build that abundance mindset. And so then I said, well, what if you took that bold and professional way of being that you are when you sit down to do a tattoo and you applied that to money? He's like, I never thought about that, but how would that go? I'd probably go very well. I'd probably be excited to read a book or listen to a podcast or take a course and learn about money. So you need to cultivate that excitement around this stuff. Again, if you're excited about it, if you're pouring your attention and intention into it, it will grow. Step 4 is to set clear financial goals. So a growth mindset thrives on clear, actionable goals. Set specific financial objectives like saving $1,000 in 3 months or learning about investing, and break them down into smaller, actionable, achievable steps. This gives you direction and helps you focus on progress rather than obstacles. I think that last point, focusing on progress rather than obstacles. So when I heard someone talking about when a alpine skier, or like someone that skis down the side of a mountain, not a trail, not a carved out ski path, but uncut trees, raw snow, right? They're skiing down the side of a mountain. If they focus on the trees, what do you think is going to happen? They're not actually focusing on the trees at all, right? They're focusing on the path forward, and they don't see any trees. They only see the path forward. So they're not focusing on the obstacles at all. They're focusing only on progress, on that opening that is leaving space for me to move on to the next thing. They're not focusing on their obstacles. They're focusing on progress. So it's just a nice little anecdote, metaphor that you can use to see in your own life. Are you setting clear financial goals, like saving $1,000 over the next 3 months, and then breaking that down into, okay, well, how much would I need to save every week, right? If you're someone and you've never saved $1,000 in your life, and I've talked to many people that are in that situation, or pick whatever number, 3,000, 5,000, and you're like, okay, I want to save that amount in the next 3 months. Let's say $1,000, 1,000 divided by 3 months, $333 a month divided by 4 weeks, right? That's $83 a week. Could you save $83 a week? Could you put that aside and actually build that beginning of an emergency savings that is really the foundation of all these other financial goals, right? If you want to invest for the future, you need an emergency fund. If you want to buy a house, you need an emergency fund. If you want to retire and be able to sustain yourself and not have to trade time for money for the rest of your life, if you want that big achievement, you first need to build an emergency savings. It all is built on top of that foundation. So setting clear financial goals, write them down. Again, you can, every part of this, right? Shifting your mindset, learning about financial literacy, setting clear goals, all of that is probably going to involve some writing. And I'm a huge fan of journaling, writing, language, communication. I think that they're like magical spells, right? We call it spelling because words are kind of like spells. They have the ability to miraculously shift our life. And I've certainly experienced that. I invite you to test that out on your own. So write out your goals, break them down into smaller bite-sized chunks. That would be a great next step. I'm going to get right back into it, but real quick, I wanted to let anyone who's feeling uncertain about your financial future know that, one, you are not alone. I speak to hundreds of tattooers and artists, small business owners all around the world every year, and it's very common to feel overwhelmed, confused when it comes to saving, investing, taxes, and all that stuff. And two, if you're looking for help with this stuff, I want to make it very easy for anyone who is serious about taking control of their financial future to book a one-on-one call with me and get clear around what actions you can take to build financial security and freedom. So if you're interested in that, or you know someone that might be, you can hit the link in the show notes below to book a one-on-one financial future session with me personally. Now, I do charge a small fee for this, but I want to make it as accessible as possible. I also want to note that I take about 5 or 6 of these calls per month, so availability is limited, but I would love to get to chat with you and see how I can help. Step 5 is to surround yourself with positive financial influences. Your environment can either support or hinder your mindset. Surround yourself with people or resources that promote healthy attitudes toward money. Whether that's friends, mentors, or financial experts you follow online, positive influences encourage you to adopt more productive money habits. And I'll be honest, I was not surrounded by a lot of positive financial influences growing up. My parents, they're okay with money. They do all right, but we never talked about money. They never taught me anything. We certainly weren't wealthy. We were comfortable, middle class, but we didn't have any conversations about investing or saving or growing. I think, I don't remember any conversations. Certainly didn't get that in school. And then early on in my tattoo career, I was surrounded by people that the last thing they were thinking about was cultivating a positive relationship with money or investing for the future. There was a lot of short-term perspectives. And so, to be honest, I was taking some coaching programs and I had some mentors that I sought out. And that was probably the first, around the age like 21. That was probably the first time I surrounded myself with people that were talking about money and business and saving and growth and investing and mindset. And that had an incalculable impact on my life. I look back at those relationships, those conversations, some dinners, sitting with people that were older than me, that were up to big things in their life, and just absorbing through osmosis the way they talked about themselves, the way they looked at the world. It completely changed me on like a core level. And so if you are not surrounded by that, I think the absolute best thing you can do for your mindset, for your financial situation, for your future is to seek out people that you can surround yourself with. Listen to podcasts, read books. That's a great start. Like I'm glad you're already clearly doing that if you've listened this far. So great work, but keep doing that. Keep surrounding yourself with those people. I have a pretty small friend circle, but I do purposefully connect with and surround myself with people that are not necessarily like as obsessed with business or finances that I am, but they're really obsessed with growth. They're really passionate about spiritual growth, emotional growth, personal, professional development. Most of my friends are entrepreneurs or business owners and are thinking about the future and being aware of their personal flaws, right? I'm a flawed human being. I am far, far, far from perfect. And I want to look at that. I don't want to avoid that. And that's a big part of a growth mindset. And so surrounding yourself with people that are also interested in that, absolutely one of the best things that you can do for your current and future financial situation. 6, I think this one's super, super important. Celebrate small wins. And I make this a priority in my programs, is like, what little aha moment, what little breakthrough, what action did you take this week that you normally would have never taken around money? It might just be scheduling an appointment at the bank to open up a business account, right? That might be a small win worth celebrating. Or setting up an automatic transfer to one of my accounts, or for taxes or living expenses or savings or vacation or retirement or my kids, or that future goal, that, that business that I want to create. Any little tiny action that you take around money in a positive direction, celebrate it, because you need to develop that instant gratification, because so much of money requires lots of patience, and doing the same thing over and over again without really seeing a huge tangible impact, a huge immediate reward. And so any little thing that you can celebrate, any little win, is going to give you that little kick of serotonin, oxytocin that you're looking for, that dopamine hit that starts to send that pattern into your reward center in your brain, starting to develop the habit of like, ooh, when I do things like this, I get that little reward. I get that little kick. Now, obviously, don't celebrate a financial win by going out and blowing $200 on dinner, but just even taking time to acknowledge, like, I'm really proud of myself for doing XYZ. Do it in your journal. Share it with someone that would be supportive. Maybe you have a friend that you can just say, like, hey, I just want you to know I don't have many people to celebrate this with, but I saved my first $1,000 and I've never done that in my life. And I'm really excited about it. And I just wanted to share that with you, right? Find that person that's going to get lit up. I have certain friends that I know when I reach a new financial goal or business goal, or I accomplish something I've never done before, I know they're the people I want to call because they're going to get so excited about that with me. And so have those people in your life really helps to build that pattern, that reward system for good, positive, forward-moving behaviors versus getting your celebration, your serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin kicks from that instant gratification you get when you buy some bullshit you don't need. And 7, the last one, is to practice patience and consistency. So he says, changing your mindset takes time. Stay patient and don't get discouraged if you don't see immediate results. With consistency, those small changes compound over time, just like investing in yourself and in your financial knowledge. By taking these steps, you'll not only shift how you think about money, but also build habits that can improve your financial health in the long run. It's about seeing money as something you can learn, you can grow, and get better at managing, just like any other skill. Money is just like any other skill. If you believe you can learn how to cook, if you believe you can learn how to tattoo, if you believe you can learn how to draw or develop any other skill, money is exactly the same. And unlike many other skills, building your skill set, your relationship, your mindset around money, it changes every other area of your life. It changes your health, your relationships, your outside circumstances, your inside circumstances. And so just to recap real quick, identify your limiting beliefs, shift into an abundance mindset, learn about financial literacy, set clear financial goals, surround yourself with positive financial influences, celebrate small wins, and practice patience and consistency. And those are the 7 steps to building a positive, growth, healthy, abundant mindset with money. So if this was helpful, I would really appreciate letting me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what part resonated most with you. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, Ryan Roy Tattoo. You can shoot me a DM. I'm pretty active on there. And I would love to hear maybe something that really stood out for you or really made a big impact, either in the comments or on Instagram. Either way, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here, taking the time to listen and improve your relationship with money. And until next time, I wish you all the best. Be well. Thanks. All right, if you found this episode helpful, one of the best ways for you to help other artists is to share this episode. Leave a review and subscribe. It helps other people find my channel, and you never know what a difference it might make for someone else. Plus, I will forever be grateful for your support, so I just want to say thank you and have a great rest of your day.